Today's show is sponsored by UGears. Inspire, educate, and entertain your loved ones this holiday season with one of UGears' incredible, fully functioning wooden mechanical models. Stick around and I'll tell you more later in the show. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen a number of stories cross our desk that we've collectively looked at and gone, yeah, we should do something on that. And then we've stopped, and we've paused, and we've second-guessed ourselves. One story was about the Tesla Model S Plaid, a car that is the fastest accelerating electric sedan that you can buy with a sub-2 second sprint time. That is, of course, if you go through a special procedure to get the car ready for that kind of intense performance. With more and more people going out on the track with their Model S Plaid, we've seen several instances of Model S Plaids crashing because their brakes aren't as quick at stopping as the car is at accelerating. Several news outlets, some lesser known and some well known, have commented on how the Plaid handles on the track, and while a few have been very positive about it, many haven't. And in the last few weeks, Tesla has unveiled carbon fibre brake pads that you can buy for your Tesla Model S Plaid, either at the factory or after taking delivery, for a princely sum that would improve stopping distances immensely. Now, then there have been the flow of stories about full self-driving beta, some positive and some negative, and this week, we were treated to a brand new odious headline, one that essentially implies Tesla is willing to let owners play computer games while their car drives along the road. And again, we talked about covering it. We had thoughts. But well, we sat on the story again. And today, after spending hours trying to write those stories into various scripts multiple times, I'm giving up. I'm going to talk about instead what it's like covering Tesla, what it's like trying to sort through the various layers of reporting and rumours and hearsay and masses of online content to try and figure out what's actually going on. And I'm going to try and explain why these days we all actually feel nervous about actually covering Tesla. Even Winter, who owns a Tesla Model 3. And for a news channel that covers electric vehicles, that's a problem. It's all to do with Echochambers. Echochambers which we feel do little to forward the cause of cleaner, greener, safer and smarter vehicles. Echochambers that exist on all sides of the multiple divides that exist. Pro-EV and anti-EV, pro-Tesla and anti-Tesla, and those in the middle. It's exhausting, frustrating, and frankly stands to actually split the EV world in a way that scares us all very much. But first, a word from our sponsor. Oh, and if you are someone who doesn't like ads, look above me and you'll see a little ticker that counts down the time until the ad ends. We frankly have to make money somehow, and since we only work with companies we personally trust, I hope that you will stick around and watch. UGears combines everything you remember from the engineering toys you may have played with as a child with the beauty of sustainable wooden parts, the accuracy of laser-cut pieces, and frankly, the sheer joy of ingenious, fully functioning mechanical models, like this Roadster. UGears offers a wide range of beautiful, fully functional 3D models that you can assemble yourself at home with no prior experience, using clear, easy-to-follow instructions that are right there in the accompanying, beautifully printed assembly book. There's no glue needed to assemble your model, and you get everything you need inside the box, including a few spares, to make your own model. And they range from simple creations suitable for ages 5 and up, all the way through to incredibly detailed engineering models like this truly amazing Roadster, which comes complete with working drivetrain and a wooden V8. And the plywood used for it comes from sustainably managed forests, and it meets all international safety standards. So we've teamed up with UGears for this holiday season, and we would love you to check out its website, where you'll find a whole host of amazing, realistic mechanical models and kinetic sculptures, all made from plywood. Prices start from just $10, and it works all the way up from there, so check out the link below to pick yours. Full disclaimer, we are working on a commission, so if you follow the link and buy one, we will get a kickback, and that means that we can make more content and make sure everyone gets paid. Back to Tesla disinformation, and us. 20 years ago, the electric vehicle world was a very different place. A handful of electric models were being planned for limited production under duress by mainstream automakers in order to comply with California's zero-emission mandate. In Europe, a handful of automakers were making limited production run EVs, mostly destined for city centre fleet use. And if you wanted an electric car of your own and you lived outside of those markets, well, there were two options for you. Buy a niche electric vehicle made by a small-scale manufacturer, both contemporary or historical, or convert your own car to electric. It was, frankly, a very different world. And fast forward to today, and the electric vehicle world has been transformed by advances in drivetrain and battery technology, as well as dramatically changing attitudes towards electric vehicles. And of course, both of those have been driven by one company in particular, Tesla. It's Tesla which challenged legacy automakers by making cars that were fast and fun to drive, by filling those cars with technology and in many respects, running rings around the competition. Indeed, it is hard to imagine modern electric vehicles without noting the impact that Tesla has had on the industry, and how it's either encouraged or scared other companies into following suit. The films Who Killed the Electric Car and its sequel, Who Saved the Electric Car, have also certainly done their part in making everyone aware of the truly terrible things that legacy automakers, GM, Toyota, and many others did to try and halt the progress of the electric car. Rightly so, some of the past behaviour of legacy automakers, and in some cases current behaviour, is abhorrent to many, including me. And we all want to see a cleaner, greener, safer and smarter transportation future. And that's had the effect of putting Tesla on a pedestal. It didn't make polluting cars. It has only made electric cars. And while those cars are out of the price range of many new car buyers, we might even suggest most, it has a moral leg up on every other automaker out there because it wasn't complicit in getting our air pollution to where it is today. And side note, I want to be clear, I'm not singling Tesla out here for being quite expensive, because nearly every electric car on sale today is too expensive for most new car buyers, and the price of new cars have soared in recent years as vehicles have become more feature-rich, technology-filled and advanced. Some analysts, in fact, are commenting that the subprime auto loan market is about to come crashing down around our ears just as the subprime mortgage market did about 15 years ago. So, take from that what you will. In being different from the way it engineers cars, makes cars, sells cars, communicates with the public, and even the way that Elon Musk is different to most CEOs out there, there's something of a reality distortion field that surrounds Tesla. Negative news stories are met with cries of media bias, and conversely, positive news stories are met with cries of bias. Here at the channel, we often joke that we know we've got a story right when we have both criticism for being too harsh and criticism for being too nice in the same comment thread. But that does nothing to help us adequately and fairly cover Tesla, or to that matter any other company out there. While Tesla has done truly amazing things to the EV world, and other automakers seem to both simultaneously be failing through incompetency or lack of interest in succeeding, it's kind of hard not to feel anything but positive vibes towards the company that's doing the thing we want it to do, making electric cars, not ICE cars. But while there is so much good about the way Tesla is changing the plug-in world, there has to be room for discourse about the things that aren't always going quite right. Take that story I mentioned earlier, the Tesla Model S Plaid and its notoriously poor stock braking system. On one side, we could blame the drivers of those cars for not being well trained enough to handle the power of a 2-second sprint time. The kind of power that a Model S Plaid can put to the wheels was once upon a time the kind of power that you'd only get piloting a $250,000 or $500,000 hypercar. And to own one of those, you'd probably have had a dedicated mechanic who worked on the car for you. You probably even had a concierge service from the automaker if you purchased it new. And the chances are that if you did purchase it new, you were taken out by a representative from the automaker, a trained race car driver no less, on a racetrack to show you how to safely and carefully handle that amount of power. Tesla offer a concierge service like that to its customers? Yes, of course it could. Could it charge for it? Absolutely, and people would pay for it. And maybe that would be one more revenue stream that also meant customers were properly trained on using the Model S Plaid. But on the flip side, one could argue that Tesla should have thought more about the stock braking capabilities of the Plaid. One could fairly argue that it shows a lack of traditional automotive engineering experience, something that perhaps a more established brand would have looked at and gone, we need bigger anchors on that. I'm sure there are many more sides that I've not covered here, but the truth is that the actual answer to why the Tesla Model S Plaids are so terrible at braking in extremis, high-speed track driving, is likely a combination of all of the above. Could and should Tesla have done better? Yes. Could many of those who crashed their cars have learned to drive the car differently? Yes. And is this a new phenomenon in the age of EVs? Yes, and I have a metric butt-ton of thoughts on how electric drivetrains are now putting impossible amounts of power into the hands of people who really aren't used to having it. It's a bit like what you see in the motorcycle world, and forgive me, if you are a biker, you are presumably more familiar with this concept than you are if you're just a car driver. But there's always one person who just turns up at a motorcycle meet with a brand new license and a 1-litre superbike they've literally just purchased. They are the ones who will usually be picked up from the road a little later on in the ride. I'll say no more. How about autopilot and full self-driving? Well, again, there's a lot of nuance missed in the majority of stories covering it. Many more clickbaity sites might opt to lay everything at the hand of the driver, while others may choose to portray the technology as dangerous and unsafe. Again, the reality is one of people not being trained to use it, or rather, choosing not to use it appropriately. We've all yet to experience autopilot full self-driving, but everyone on the team at the channel has now driven a car with autopilot for a significant amount of time. And we're all pretty much in agreement. The system is competent, but at times, it has problems. Phantom braking is one of them. The system is really only safe, or in fact usable, when the person behind the wheel is fully cognizant of the system and vested in using the system correctly, not abusing it. Tesla does have its own safety scoring system to ensure people who have access to FSD beta, for example, are using it properly, or they lose it. But it can't catch every single person who abuses said system. And because it's not fully level 5 autonomous yet, no semi-autonomous system in production right now is, that's why it's semi-autonomous, the way that any kind of system like this drives is directly related to how the person behind the wheel is treating and using it. And there are problems with other semi-autonomous systems right now caused by bugs or quirks of each representative system, because every semi-autonomous system from ProPilot to Blue Cruise has its flaws, just like Autopilot and FSD does. The difference between those systems and Tesla's systems, though, is that Tesla has always used FSD and Autopilot as a key selling point of its cars. It's talked about a lot. And when something goes wrong, often because of the driver not monitoring what is patently beta software, the headline's cool. Again though, while there are some things that Tesla should and could work to fix, many of the headline attention-grabbing problems come from people who are either abusing the technology or don't have an interest in understanding it. And the stories are often written by folk who don't understand it. And the whole playing games while you drive thing that we saw this week? Again, context is king. As I understand it, while Tesla used to have a lockout to prevent games from being played while the vehicle was in motion, it now effectively uses an honor system. You are asked if you are the driver or not, and if you choose to lie, then yeah, you could, as the driver, be a truly silly sausage and opt to try and play a game while the car is driving along the road. However, that is not exactly new. The headlines should be, Tesla owners who play games while driving are irresponsible pillocks who are endangering the lives of other people, not Tesla is a bad automaker for doing something that other automakers already do. You see, for as long as I can remember, other automakers have used the "are you the driver?" question to gatekeep certain functionality in a car, like entering a destination in the sat-nav. Android Auto and CarPlay have similar questions. By singling out Tesla for doing what everyone else is doing is frankly disingenuous. That said, all automakers should be taking more steps to minimize distracted driving, but they appear just as reluctant to do so as Tesla appears to be. For example, while Chevrolet once had a little hidden compartment in some cars that you could put your phone in and charge it in order to discourage you from interacting with your cell phone while you were driving, and other automakers have similar ways to stop you from using your phone while you're driving, they all still kind of run on the honor system, so... Which leaves us where? Is Tesla often misunderstood and mischaracterized by mainstream journalists? Yes. Is it sometimes rightly called out by mainstream journalists? Yes. And those answers and questions are the same for those of us who work as specialists in the automotive sector. The problem is, though, that we are in a world where we've got used to echo chambers of our own mindsets. And that means it's becoming difficult to be someone who can both give credit where credit is due and criticism where criticism is due, without being labelled at one extreme or the other. There is no automaker quite as divisive as Tesla, and as usually the case with any polarising issue, the words and the actions of those who are moderate in their views and logical and thought out in their thought processes and conclusions are drowned out by those on the fringes, those who shout the loudest, and that can be a negative experience for both sides of the same coin. But it's not helped by Tesla not having a press department to speak of, and a CEO who doesn't always reflect the company in a positive way. And that means that misinformation can be multiplied and distorted rather than simply cleared up with a good old-fashioned press statement or an email to a press person at Tesla. So, well, you could argue that some of these stories of late could have been dealt with more appropriately. In everything we do here, we want and try to be as fair as we can be. We're not going to please everyone, but lately it does often feel like saying nothing is the easier option. Tesla isn't always right, it's sometimes wrong. So too are other automakers out there, and the journalists who cover them. And yes, even the owners of the cars. I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of times I've been on a press launch and spoken to auto industry engineers who completely dispel an urban myth about one particular car or another. In conclusion then, covering Tesla is hard because of the heightened emotions, the folk hero-like status of its CEO, and the hordes of people who have very strong emotions about the company. Here, we want to try and follow the middle lane. But that means not always saying things people will like. In the past, we've come under criticism for being too pro-Tesla and too anti-Tesla, so, as I said earlier, I hope we're doing something right. Oh, and the next time you see a story about something being used in a way it wasn't designed to, ask yourself if it's the company or its users who are to blame. The answer might not be as clear-cut if you think about it as you might think. That's it for today. If you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to leave your thoughts below or join our free-to-join Discord chat room. There is a link below. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to this channel and to our other channel, Transport Evolved Take 2. Give the bell a gentle ding to make sure you're told when our next video goes live. Thanks on behalf of the entire TE crew go out to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month Patreon supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month patrons, that's Jason Bordeaux, Brian Newton, Michael Goad, David Janakula, Ricky Leon, Andrew Martin, Guido Drahota, Brophy Wolf, Tesla in the Gong, Joseph Broucher, Sean Ueda, Gordon C, Regine Fellows, Anonymous Freak, Jim Burness, Anthony Coates, Carl Hodgson, Laura Sanborn, Rory Litwin and Denny Hyde. And our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, Joe Bresney, JP Fagerback, Will Grayland, Matthew Drobnak, Christopher Lee Jones, Paul Conway, Ellery Hennesley, and Ian. If you are feeling left out, you can join Patreon at the link below, or you can show us your support through Bitcoin, Ko-fi, or our cool swag store. There are links below. And you know, there is still time to get this holiday-themed Christmas tree hoodie with all loads of different EVs on it. So go on, support the show, and get a cool holiday sweater too. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving.